Hello everyone, we're really excited today to present the latest updates from Enactia. In this new release, we have introduced some significant features that enable you to take advantage of the full capabilities of Enactia. Firstly, let's go to the record of processing activities module. Under our ROPA or RPA, record of processing activities, and under the processes tab, we have introduced a new grid view. So basically, each user can customize the look and feel of what columns, what kind of fields should be presented for convenience to each user. In fact, each user can have multiple list grid templates that they can choose anytime in order to export relevant reports afterwards. So basically, if I go to the Edit Grid View button, a new pop-up will be presented where on the left side I can see all fields available which relate to the record of processing activity module. So for example, if I want to change the view and to include only, for example, the process ID, process name, department, description of processing activity, process type, primary or secondary activity, I will move these fields to the left. I can also rearrange the fields here with drag and drop, or I can even choose drag and drop from the left side to the right if I like. So this will be added at the bottom, and I can also rearrange, as I said. And basically, once I click save, this automatically is applied at the back. So you have seen that something changed here at the back. It will also ask you whether you want to save this grid view as template. So if I click OK, then I can change, for example, test. I would like test. And I would type a description. I'm gonna save it. So here at the bottom, I will set it as the default one, okay. And now my test demo list grid is presented here at the back. So I save this as a template and it's the default one. If I close the window, I can see that this is the default one. Of course, I need to change it a bit because I want to take advantage of the whole space. So I can, for example, drag and drop, drag, rearrange to fill in all the details here. This one as well. And this one here. And if I go back to Edit Grid View, I can choose again my demo and then click again Save. It will ask me whether to want to modify the template. I will say yes, modify the selected template. And now I have saved my template with the exact dimensions of the columns. So if I go back and forth, even if I go back to the main dashboard and then come back again to the record of processing activity module, it will maintain my own grid view of my record of processing activity list grid here. So this is exactly what we have selected previously. If I want to go back, edit grid view, I can very quickly reset to default. If I want to use the default Enactia one, I say OK. And as you have seen at the back, it has been refreshed. Automatically, Enactia default was enabled. If I close this, then again, we go to the default Enactia presentation of the fields of your ROPA. With this functionality, you can build a lot of templates. If you want to do like an export only about the DPIA statuses of each process with some details, or whether you want to present only the technical measures and the respective processing name and description. So you can have multiple templates here that you can predefine and enable basically, and then you can export it very easily. So this was the first feature that has been introduced with this update. The second feature that has been introduced is the new ROBA export functionality. So instead of just exporting in XLS format, now you are able to customize your export. So basically it's the same concept as the edit of the grid view, but you can choose again the fields that you want to export, drag and drop. You can save again another template here at the back. By clicking the template, you can see that the fields are automatically loaded on the right side, and you can click on the XLS export, where your template is going to be exported in a structured format based on the selected fields that of course you can again rearrange by drag and drop the required the selected fields. In your export, if you want to include your archived ones or even the deleted ones that are in the recycle bin processes, you can also click those checkboxes here and that will be exported. If you don't want to save, you can clear this. You can select the fields that you want to choose on the right, you do the export, and then the export functionality will load so as to proceed. So this was downloaded at my browser. So I export it. But if I want also to save this as a template, I will click save and the export template will be added at the bottom. Another significant update that we have introduced is the additional screens and access rights. So let me go to the settings of the user management screen. So for an Enactia user who has the role as a user and not DPO helpdesk or DPO team member, just user, if you click edit user, you're going to see a new screen access tab. By this capability, you have the option to give additional permissions to this user. For example, if I want Clark Kent here, our Superman, to access the risk management module or the asset management to manage assets like the systems, update the list, the asset registry of the company, or if that user also manages vendor relationships and vendor assessments, etc. You can also give access to these screens. You can also give administration access, where the admin has also the option to edit risks, edit assets that basically is not the risk owner initially, or is not the risk creator, is not the risk the asset owner or the asset creator, or the vendor creator or vendor owner. So with the admin has more privileges to the respective module. You also have the capability to enable or disable the risk settings tab, the asset management settings tab, and the vendor management settings tab. This will mean that this user, if this is not enabled, for example, in the screen of the vendor management module, the user will not be able to access the vendor settings. So that user will not be able to modify any parameters about that module, will not be able to create a new vendor risk assessment template. Whereas if you give that access, it will be presented to the user. So it's like having an additional role, like the risk management role, asset management role, and vendor management role. So this is a significant update that we have introduced in this release. Let's go and see how that will work. So I was under the user Superman Clark Kent, so I will log out as a DPO and go back as the Superman. Traditionally, and to your existing the previous update, you're gonna have this landing page, which is the user dashboard. The user dashboard, basically, it's gonna be presented to each user that has the user role permissions on a screen, and we'll be able to see, for example, my tickets, my assessments, my processes, and all that information. What has been added here is the vendor ownership. That's a significant update, where in case where I have been assigned as a vendor owner, this means that any user in your organization that has access on Enactia as a plain user will also be able to manage the relationship with that vendor that collaborates with. So this releases gives flexibility to the DPO to assign responsibility to others to manage the vendor relationship, to perform assessments for their own vendor and chase them and receive alerts. But also at the same time, that could be managed from the vendor management screen. So this is a new tab that has been introduced in this update as well. Now, since I have given access to this user account, to access the risk management module, to access the asset management, and access the vendor and the risk management, this will mean that new menus have been introduced to this user account. Those menus are accessible from the right top corner after logging in, of course, as a plain user. So you can see that I can navigate to these modules now. If I go, for example, to the vendor management screen, because now I'm not only managing my own vendors, but actually the vendors of the organization. Maybe for example, I am under the procurement department. This will mean I will be able to access the vendor management module. Of course, it's a bit different from what the DPO sees. I can see, for example, my notifications here again as a user to go directly to my dashboard. But also I can see the module related notifications. And of course I can navigate to the settings, my dashboard, and help and support. As you can see here, the settings is available here, but if I click, it will state that I do not have permission to access the settings of this module. As you can see from the top, the settings tab is missing because I have not given previously the permission to this user to access the settings. But apart from that, I have full access to manage the whole relationships with vendors. So I can go to vendor listing. I can see this is a newly introduced tab. I can see the owner of each vendor, and whether any vendor has not been allocated with owners, it will be flagged as unallocated. Of course, from the DPO team member screen, this could not be applicable in a sense that you have access to the whole vendor catalog or your vendor registry, basically. But apart from that, you can manage the relationships. Because I have not given administrator access to this module, to this particular vendor, user, I can only open a vendor to which I have been assigned either as an owner or I have created this user. So I can see here my account is owner. I'm managing the relationship of this particular vendor. So that's why I can only open the first vendor. If I have the administrator access to this module, I will be able to manage all vendors. Please keep in mind also that if a user has been assigned with this kind of access and you are under the subscription of multi-company, this will mean that I will only be able to manage vendors that belong or have been assigned to my organization or my subsidiary. So I need to have access to other subsidiaries in order to be able to manage also those vendors of the other subsidiary. That's the only difference that is applicable to anywhere within Enactia. So this is how you manage the vendor. If I go to asset management, let's assume that I'm a person under the IT manager, or a particular role within the IT department that manages the assets of the company. It's the same concept. I can see some notifications related to me or module notifications, and of course I can see the rest of the analytics regarding the assets. But again, I can go to the asset register. I can create new assets. Again, I have not given administrator access to this module, to this screen. I can only manage the asset to which I have been assigned either as an asset owner, or, which this is the case, or whether I am the asset creator, the person that created the asset. So basically, this is how you manage the asset. You can, of course, add new data as you go along. And we have also introduced the business continuity disaster recovery plan information with some additional fields where you can update your resilience measures, RTOs, RPOs, backup plans, etc., backup location, disaster recovery location in regards to the asset. And some additional information in regards to host name, IP addresses, whether we are talking about a system like a server database, web application, etc. Again, I have not given access to the settings, so that's why I cannot see the settings. If I go now to the risk management module, this user, let's assume that this user is also under the risk department, for example, and manages the risks of the organization. If this is the case, in this case, I've also given access to the settings of this module. So if I go to the settings, I can also modify the risk scoring, departmental risk scoring, the risk categories as normally the DPO will have access to, who has full access to the system. But this is the significant part where you can go to the risk registry. You can browse to all risks. In this case, I can see we have introduced this icon, which represents that I am the risk owner or risk creator to the particular risk. Where if I open this, I'm also be able to edit the description, recommendation details, etc. So these are editable, as also the rest of the tabs. And at the same time, I can open all other risks within the platform, and I can also edit those risks that I am not the creator or risk owner. If I disable the administrator access, it will mean that the rest of the risks which I'm not the risk owner or creator, I will not be able to modify the content of the risk. I will only be able to navigate to each tab. Maybe I will be able to give a comment, but I will not be able to modify the rest of the information within the risk. This is also the difference between the administrator in this screen and non-administrator. So this was also another significant update of Enactia. Something that we have also introduced is the discussion with the vendor. This basically it can be achieved when you are sending an assessment to the vendor. If I go here, let's find something that can be edited. If not, we can edit here. We can create an assessment. So I'll better go to my dashboard to experience how a user can initiate a vendor assessment. So I can go to the vendors which I am the owner. Can go to assessments, and here I can see that this assessment is running and it's pending vendor input. If I open this assessment, we have introduced this new feature in comments. So basically we have two chats here. This is an internal chat to communicate internally within the company that is using Enactia, maybe to give instructions to someone else to review the feedback from the vendor, or to communicate with the vendor. And the second is a chat with the vendor. So basically the vendor can give us feedback, or we can give feedback back to the vendor. If, for example, we are not happy with the answer given, we want to elaborate. So I can give a feedback here. For example, please elaborate on your response and providing supporting evidence. So the vendor will also receive an email and notification through Enactia that has access that we have leave this kind of feedback. So there's no need to send separate emails, but instead send direct message where exactly you want to leave feedback to the vendor. As you remember, the vendor will not be able to access all these tabs. The vendor will only be able to access the response and to upload documents. So the rest of the tabs here, the tickets, risks, comments, and above permissions, vendor qualification, risk, discussion documents are only accessible internally to the team, to the internal team, either the vendor management team or the DPO team, DPO team members. So this is a significant update that we have released as well. So we have also included several fixes, corrections, and performance optimization and feedback that we receive from our clients. So we hope that you enjoy the new features and updates, and we are really looking forward to receiving your feedback, and we are very, very excited to introduce some exciting features in the upcoming months. Thank you very much. This was Christos Makedonas, a co-founder from Enactia.